We'll let them in now. Everyone is going to be admitted now.
And Brandy, we're live on YouTube now.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. We're just getting started, so thanks for bearing with us. We had a few technical difficulties, so we do have this set up tonight the same as we've done in previous meetings where everyone is on mute to start with. You should all be able to raise your hand for the committee members so that if you want to speak, we will have that option. And just a reminder that we are recording this and it is being streamed live to YouTube. So we'll just give it one more minute for people to join, and we will have public comment at the end of the meeting. Great. Okay. So as before, feel free to hover over your picture. There are 3 little dots in the upper corner, and you can rename yourself if you'd like to add your affiliation or change your name if it's not showing up correctly. So feel free to do that. You should all be able to also turn on your video if you would like to show your face to everyone. If not, feel free to leave your camera off. We'll just give people one more minute to join. Thanks again to everyone who dealt with our earlier technical difficulties. So Ben, I think if you could share your screen, we can get started in a minute. Hopefully everyone can see our agenda for the night. Okay, you're probably all hearing the doorbell sound, possibly my cat in the background. So hopefully it's not too distracting. I think we're about ready to get started. Should we wait for anyone else, Ben? We see most of the committee members here.
Commissioner Treese has a question.
Can you let us know who's on the telephone as well?
Yeah, so let me check in with them. Thank you. Hi, so the telephone number, I can rename you if you'd like me to. Would you like to tell me your first name?
And to unmute your phone is *6, and to raise your hand is *9, if you didn't already know.
Okay, I'm just going to remove your, just so it'll show just the last 4 digits of your phone number. Great. Well, I think we'll get started here. A few more people are joining us, and that's totally fine. So welcome everyone to the Saltzman Road PAC meeting. And this is the unexpected PAC number 6. So thank you all for joining us. I know you thought you were done with me, but I'm back. So we just wanted to check in with you, give you an update since the last time we met, provide an opportunity for you to speak to Commissioner Treese and Chair Harrington, and give you an update on what's been happening. So just a few more logistics before we get started. As a reminder, we are recording this video, and it's also being streamed live to YouTube. YouTube, sorry, not U2, the band. So, and we will go through our agenda here tonight. As we're working through the topics, everyone is on mute. For PAC members, feel free to raise your hands, and we will have time to open up for discussion. We will have public comments. You can see there around 6 o'clock. And so anyone who wishes to speak, feel free to raise your hand at that time. You should all be able to also submit comments through the chat, and those will go to us, and then we can read those, or we can call on you to give some verbal comments. And then we also have a few comments that were emailed to us that we'll read as well. And then we're going to kind of wrap it up around 6:30, but we'll leave some additional time for questions and comments at the end as well, if there's more discussion that would like to happen. So I see, Virginia, you have your hand raised. So go ahead. Do you have a clarifying question? Oh, you're still on mute. Hold on.
Everyone.
Oh, can you?
I am not able to send a chat message to everyone, and I don't know why.
Yeah, so today we have it set up a little slightly differently. The way that it's set up is to just send it to the hosts. So if you can send it to us, we can read it out, but it's just a slight technical issue.
Oh, who is that?
That's me. It also would go to Ben
Okay.
and Terry and Heather Sturgill from the county as well. Great. Thank you. Looks like that worked. And just as a reminder, if for some reason we are not able to get to all of the public comments tonight that are typed into the chat, we will include those in the written meeting summary as we have in the past. It looks like Mary, you might have a question, and then after we clarify this question from Mary, I'd like to move into the agenda. Go ahead, Mary. Can you unmute?
Who said that she needs a password to get into the meeting?
So, someone is having trouble accessing the meeting?
Yes, it's telling her she needs a password.
Washington County staff, do you know?
Yeah, Chuck, is that something that you can resolve?
Yeah, it's actually on the website. Let me pull that up real quick. And passcode is 7659999. That was published on the calendar event for this meeting.
Actually, she just messaged me and she said she was able to get in, so I'm not sure what the the
Okay.
password was on the agenda. So yes, she did find it.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So jumping into our agenda, I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm Brandy Steffen with JLA Public Involvement, and I'll hand it off to Ben to do some introductions, and then we'll move into our update.
Thanks, Brandy, and thanks again to all of our PAC members who are joining us for the 6th meeting. I know the 5th meeting was sort of a surprise, and now we are having the 6th one. But we do want to provide these to you when we have the opportunity to give you an update. And so I do appreciate your time. I know you obviously have your own busy lives, so thanks so much for joining us. This one is a little bit different. We do have Commissioner Treese with us tonight, and I know that in our last meeting, I think there might have been some interest in being able to speak directly with the commissioner as well. So we want to be able to provide an update, which actually the update itself is it isn't super involved, and most of the presentation is really much of what you've already seen there. We tweaked the Eastern alignment, so we'll go over that. But I think the main thing here is you'll have a chance to interact directly with the commissioner. So we appreciate her time as well. And Chair Harrington, if Chair Harrington has joined.
I was just gonna say, you may not be able to see, but I wanted to make sure you knew the chair had joined us too.
Oh, the chair joined. Okay.
Yes.
And thanks so much, Chair Harrington, and Chair Harrington as well. And I just want to say that actually Chair Harrington and Commissioner Treese asked us to pull this meeting together to make sure that we were keeping the PAC in the loop with this design modification, and to provide you all the opportunity to chat with them. So I just wanted to make that note as well. We have with us also, obviously, our director, Stephen Roberts, who just spoke, and Terry from Murray Smith, who the PAC members have met before, of course, is our design engineer for the project. So Terry will be here to provide any technical background or questions that are needed as we proceed through this presentation. So Brandy, anything I'm forgetting?
No, I think I'm not sure if Chair Harrington and Commissioner Treese wanted to say anything before we get started, or if just throw that out there as an option. Let me unmute. I can let you unmute yourself.
I appreciate everybody coming tonight. I'm looking forward to the discussion. I think that this has been a long process, and I appreciate your patience and your willingness to come together for a sixth meeting. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Katherine Harrington. I'm very happy to be here this evening along with Commissioner Pam Treese. And I appreciate all of the work that our staff has pulled together to try and ensure that the PAC is able to provide its best advice to us with the information that they have. Thank you. I look forward to learning more and hearing more.
Great, thank you.
Thanks so much.
So I'm just going to quickly, and Ben, maybe if you can scroll up to show the PAC members, the Project Advisory Committee members. And I believe that we have almost everyone here tonight. So the members were Suresh Bala, Bruce Barbarash, Virginia Bruce, Mary Manso, Asif Rahman, Trace Richard, Christopher Temple Morris, Mariana Valenzuela, and Venkat Kamba. So that is all of the PAC members. So just as a quick reminder why we're here tonight, as it's been said, we wanted to give you an update on what work has been going on since the 5th meeting. We also heard your desire previously in earlier meetings to speak directly with the Commissioner Treese and Chair Harrington, and the timing didn't quite work out before, but we were able to have them here tonight. So, and we just wanted to remind you that there's no formal ask of the PAC at this meeting. We're maintaining the previous comments and votes that took place in the previous meetings. So this is really an information sharing, dialogue, conversation opportunity. So just as a reminder why we're here. So we're gonna have Ben go through the update, and then we will have some discussion, and then we will open it up for public comment. And if there's additional desire for further conversation, we will have additional time after the public is able to give their comments. So Ben, I'll let you take it away.
Great, thank you, Brandy. Thanks so much. So here's our presentation. We'll go through this. I know a lot of this will be familiar to folks who've already seen a number of these slides, but maybe some members of the public who haven't seen some of this information. The project area you can see here is Saltzman Road between Laidlaw Road and Bayonne Lane. You see the graphic here with our eastern alignment alternative, which is the essentially based on the current alignment. And then the potentially new western alignment alternative, which is a bridge structure, which would connect directly to 130th Avenue. And then I have some notes here. Commissioner Treese, Commissioner District number 2. This is a CPO 7, Community Participation Organization 7 area, but it's very close to CPO 1 as well. So thank you, our representatives, Mary and Virginia, for joining. and being a part of the pack. I've noted here Saltzman Road has narrow lanes. Of course, the people that are familiar and travel this all the time know that quite well. There's no bicycle or pedestrian facilities currently. For either alignment, they're steep grades. So I'm just making note of that. That is not something that we can change, unfortunately. So moving on, why are we here? We talked a little bit about this, but as we mentioned, Chair Harrington and Commissioner Treese requested that we update you all, the PAC, on the new modifications to the eastern alignment design. And I also want to let you know that we anticipate presenting this updated eastern alignment design at a future Board of County Commissioners work session. And that would likely be in the first part of the year, in the first, maybe the winter or spring timeframe. All right. So here's our two primary alignment alternatives. Like I mentioned, we've got the eastern alignment alternative, which is based on the existing Saltzman Road. You can see there's a note here that says this water quality facility that we had imagined that may be needed. We actually might be able to eliminate that. And then, so the eastern alignment, which we'll talk about some of the updates we made to that. And we have the western alignment, which is this bridge structure, which would connect directly to 130th Avenue. And moving on to the next slide. So the eastern alignment update, which we'll go through here now, and I might have Terry, our design engineer, say a few words. But this is option number 3. So we have a number of iterations of eastern alignment. We tried to smooth out these corners, and we did a number of things which are different from before. So we do want to confirm that we don't need to impact the house structure that's here. I know that's been some concern at the top of the hill, which is the south Saltzman southeast there. So that is retained, fortunately. And then we're adding on-street buffered bike lanes and curb-tight sidewalk on the downhill side, so traveling north. And then on the uphill side, traveling south, we'd add a 10-foot wide multi-use path. As you can imagine, going downhill on a bike, it's a little bit easier to free flow with a buffered bike lane than when you're traveling uphill. You'd have this multi-use path, which gets you off the road and is a little bit safer. The design speed's 35 miles per hour, except where the curves are, which would be 27 miles per hour on this option. And there's a culvert that we need to replace. That would be wildlife and fish friendly, and to be large enough also to have the potential for future pedestrian travel. All right, this next slide, we show a cross-section and road profile. It's just essentially showing the grade and the drop, the elevation, and then we've got the cross-section, which I talked about. In fact, on the next slide, there's a few cross-sections which give a little bit more information. You can see at this top section, the 10-foot wide multi-use path, the lane width, and then on the other side, the buffered bike lane, the sidewalk, 6-foot sidewalk. Now, there are different components to this road. There's some areas, really the southernmost part of Saltzman and the northernmost part, which is down close to Bannister, or connects to Laidlaw. So a 2-lane section, a 3-lane section, and a 2-lane section with walls. So in those areas with retaining walls, we've also provided an example of the section here for that. And I just want to mention this. After we've gone through and given you all the technical information and explained what we're doing here, this will all be posted to the website as well for folks to download. Now we have some visual simulations that I'll go through for the eastern alignment, then I'll also go through them for the western alignment. You can see this is going, it's looking north, going downhill from the top of the hill, if you will, at Saltzman. You can see the multi-use path on the left side of the screen or traveling uphill, and then the buffered bike lane and the 6-foot sidewalk traveling downhill or going north. In this image, this is down closer to the culvert. So we're looking north about halfway down the hill. Again, you can see the multi-use path on the screen on the left side traveling uphill, and the buffered bike lane and the sidewalk traveling downhill going north. Here's a look next to the culvert, and you can see Laidlaw, Bannister, Saltzman intersection up there a little ways. And here's another image. This is looking uphill, looking south from about halfway. You can see the multi-use path, which is off the roadway. And then on the other side, you can see the buffer bike lane and the 6-foot sidewalk going downhill. And then the western alignment. So for our PAC members, the western alignment hasn't changed. We believe we met all the criteria for the western alignment we did the first time. So I will still go through the information with the western alignment. It's 2 to 3 vehicle lanes, 3 lanes where it's necessary for turning into some of the developments, and then 3 lanes rather than 2 lanes in the center of the bridge section, and then 3 lanes again when we go north down to Bannister, I'm sorry, down to Laidlaw and the intersection of 130th Avenue. This bridge does allow for a 35-mile/hour design speed throughout, and it would have buffered bike lanes and sidewalks the length of it as well. The bridge would also span the floodplain and the creek area there. Here is a cross section and profile of the road. You can see the 10% grade and the elevation change is shown here, and then the length of the bridge. The section shows the 12-foot travel lanes, the bike lanes, and the sidewalks. And then I have some visual simulations here. You can see the bridge structure there. We're looking east on Laidlaw towards Saltzman. There's another shot of the bridge, potentially what it would look like looking southeast towards Saltzman from Laidlaw. And here's an image looking basically down the bridge, looking towards Harbor Heights there. We're looking at Laidlaw and the intersection of 130th. And then this image shows we're basically at the intersection of the new bridge, Laidlaw, and 130th Avenue here. So we just wanted to show how the bridge would seamlessly connect to 130th Avenue, which that bit of 130th is already built out. Okay, and this next slide, we added option 3, the revised eastern alignment to this slide. It's similar, some of these criteria are similar to, well, the criteria themselves are the same ones we looked at before, but the rating for the eastern option 3 may be a little bit different. You can see for environmental permitting, as we know, the western alignment, because it crosses a floodplain, is going to require some additional work for permitting, and the eastern alignment, really any of the options, it's an existing roadway, so it's not as challenging. Stormwater management, we have some notes here. The western and eastern option 1 have more impervious surface than the eastern option 2 or the most recent option 3. Structures, we're basically noting here that the bridge structure is more complex than a culvert replacement, which seems kind of obvious. Traffic, for the western alignment connection into 130th Avenue, there would be a little bit more work, a little bit more improvements needed there to connect that 130th sort of little orphan street on further to make a connection there. So a little bit more work. So that provides a little bit more impact there. Utilities, there's some private easements that we need to work on the western alignment, which may be a little bit more complex, but you know, there's also utilities on the eastern alignment. So that's something that LUT is very familiar with dealing with. Right of way, there's more land, obviously, that on the western alignment than the eastern alignment. So that would much of that is THPRD land, of course. And for trees, there's more tree clearing on the eastern alignment, so we would have to remove more trees to make that one work. Traffic control, eastern alignment is going to require a detour, a full road closure, so that has a higher impact. And then the safety, the western alignment can maintain that full 35-mile/hour design speed, whereas the eastern alignment rather has a design speed of 35 miles per hour, but at the corners 27 miles per hour. Then you can see here the total project costs at the bottom. this is an estimate because we're at such a sort of minor design level, if you will, 5 or 10% design level. We had to include a lot of contingency. So we're noting here 40% construction contingency and 15% administration contingency, but it's the same amount of contingency for both options. In the next slide here, we show the PAC recommendation. So the PAC reviewed the eastern and western alignment, and the PAC overwhelmingly voted for the western alignment. And then for next steps, we are looking to have a virtual open house in early 2022 to provide all of the project information to the public. And we'll have a board work session also in early 2022. And then if we get approval from the board, because as everybody knows, we can't actually move the project forward into design and then of course construction without board approval. That would be, we're estimating, hopefully next year through into 2023. Then we need to do environmental permitting and studies from 2023 to 2024 approximately. Right-of-way acquisition, as we've discussed previously, will take about 9 months. So that's why we have both years 2023 and 2024. Once we wrap up right-of-way acquisition, then we can start construction. We'll bid the project out to the public to bid the project. And of course, the way the county does construction contractor bidding is we choose the lowest qualified bidder, the lowest cost qualified bidder, that is. And that's, we're estimating 2024, 2025. And this will note here, I already mentioned it, but proceeding basically further in design and doing the studies and the permitting and the construction and the associated timelines, we can do that after we get approval from the board and we go next year. So yeah, there's some additional web information on our website here that I have posted. And we will upload this presentation to it as well, and a link to the recording. And then here's my contact information, which I know the PAC members have, but for the public, you're welcome to give me a call or send me an email if you have any questions or if you have any preferences for one alignment or the other. So with that, I think, Brandy, I'll turn it back over to you to moderate our next step.
Great, thanks, Ben. So I also typed Ben's email into the chat, and I'm going to include his phone number as well, so that you all have access to that. So the next part of our agenda is to have some discussion. So any questions or comments that you want to share with either Chair Harrington or Commissioner Treese, or anything you want to share back, or even questions about what Ben just presented. So I saw that Mary raised her hand and then Suresh. And so feel free to continue just putting your hand up and I will keep going in order. Go ahead, Mary.
There I am.
Yeah, there we are.
Okay. Ben mentioned that there was additional work that needed to be done further up 130th, or is that the Laidlaw?
Oh, sorry, Mary, you cut out there. You said I mentioned 130th, some additional work that was needed.
Is that work further up 130th, or is that directly on the intersection with Laidlaw?
Oh, that'd really be really the main work would be just to connect that 130th piece onto the adjacent road, because as you know, it's blocked there. So there'd be some additional work just to open that up essentially and improve that road. But actually connecting to 130th at the intersection is quite easy because it's already built out.
But right now there's a missing gap in 130th. And I think the question is would this project include paving that gap?
Yeah, currently this project as it is now is not adding that additional work on. That's not to say that it couldn't. But the direction I have, at least currently, is that we're addressing either building the bridge out or improving Saltzman as it is.
And it was my understanding that that road segment was not opened up because the road further up was not completed. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to connect it to a road that doesn't go anywhere at this point.
Yeah, well, that could be either part of this project, or it could be a separate project of its own that we'd run, alongside it, or in some manner where it would make sense as far as from a timeline perspective.
But it seems to me that it's a little screwball to include that as a problem or an additional cost for the western alignment when it really isn't part of the project. Next question is, how long is, with the eastern alignment, if that is the chosen option, how long do you expect Saltzman to be closed? And would it be closed during the winter months as well?
Yeah, it could be. And maybe Terry, if you want to speak to that and give us a sense if, the timeline that would be required to close Saltzman down while we did work. I think we talked about a couple of months before. It's a span of time. Terry, are you unmuted?
I am. Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
We haven't looked at construction schedules in detail, but it would likely be a 1 or 2 season construction job. And so it would be closed as we do certain sections of the road. The entire road may not need to be closed for the entire 1 or 1.5 year period.
And everybody is aware that there aren't good alternatives to anybody that wants to go south that lives north of the creek. You have to drive either all the way out to Laidlaw, all the way to Kaiser, or all the way up Laidlaw to where it intersects with Thompson Road. And both are really out of direction if you're trying to go south. So I think it would be really good to be able to provide that information to the community to give us some certainty if the eastern alignment is chosen. Comparing the eastern with the western alignment, I'm feeling more and more like we're comparing apples with oranges, because we're talking about full bike lanes on both sides with the western alignment, sidewalks on both sides, and potentially you're looking at a shared multi-use path with the eastern alignment. And I'm not much of a bicyclist, but I would think that if you're struggling to get up a hill on a bicycle, the last thing you are going to want to do is to have to dodge pedestrians. And I know it is a 10-foot wide path, but it still doesn't seem to me that it's something that makes a whole lot of sense. Does anybody care to comment on that and how that decision was made?
Yeah, well, thank you for your comment. And one thing that you mentioned, we will flesh out more as far as the closing of Saltzman, what would be required for that. So I just want to note that I think that is important. As far as a 10-foot wide path goes, that a multi-use path, that is a bike treatment. That's a common treatment that the county uses. And we don't see an issue with a bike, someone using a bike and someone on foot using a 10-foot wide multi-use paths. And as far as the number of users in this particular area, I don't know that it's someone traveling up the hill would be able to travel really at a speed that would be of concern. But I guess my comment would just be that it is a part of our bike treatment toolkit, if you will, and we do use multi-use paths in Washington County with success.
Okay, thank you. It just to me is of concern because of the grade. And what I've been told by bicyclists is that when you're going downhill on a bicycle, you quite often can travel at the same speed as traffic. And it might make sense to flip the two around the other way. Just a thought.
Thanks for your comments, Mary.
Great, thanks, Mary. So I think Suresh was next.
Hi, Brandy and
Hi.
Ben. Can you guys hear me?
We can, thank you.
Awesome. It's been a while. Okay. Great. Good to hear that we have Commissioner Trees and Chair Harrington also here. Very nice to meet you. I represent the Bower Highlands HOA. It's about 275 residents. Just want to make you aware. So I had two questions for Ben and Terry maybe. One is with the infrastructure bill providing additional funding, has that been taken into this consideration in terms of, I understand this modified eastern alignment, but you talked about, the western alignment, it was still in consideration. And as you noted, Ben, the PAC overwhelmingly voted for the western alignment. What does the infrastructure bill provide additional funding to the western, to this project per se, right? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Your question is if there's additional funding allocated to this project with that?
Because the original budget is 6.5. What
Right.
Me and my fellow residents are wondering is, I think the lowest of the other options that you're looking at is 8.5, right? And Western is 19.5, I think is what you're put with the contingencies.
Potentially.
So we're just wondering, are you getting anything additional from the infrastructure bill to the kitty, to the MS STIP kitty?
Yeah, I think Stephen, maybe you can speak to funding matters.
Yeah, thank you, Asif. That's a good question. So the federal bill is still relatively new. There are discussions happening at the state level. We know that ODOT will receive some additional funding through different formula programs that then can be sent to local jurisdictions. Some of those are competitive grant opportunities. And I don't have a really clear understanding exactly what kinds of projects and what amounts that we might anticipate at this time. So we're continuing to learn more about that, but we will be obviously, regardless, as you noted, whichever option we move forward with, we will need to seek some additional funding to actually get the project constructed. So we definitely have that as a to-do action item on this project.
Okay. While you, thank you, Stephen. I just wanted to further kind of emphasize here that 97229 is a key contributor to the tax dollars for the Washington County. I can say that with just intuition. I don't have the data to back it up here at this point, but I bet you guys have all the data to go with it. So my emphasis here is that, let's do the right thing, the long-term solution, and put this as a priority. This is not a side project. Let this not be a side project, right? That's one thing that I want to clarify. So if you're done with that, let me get to the second one, which is it's kind of related to the same. So there is a delta of at least 2 million, even if you look at the modified Eastern option. Can you talk to how that will be bridged?
Yeah, so I think, like we'd mentioned, I think Stephen, you can correct me, but that is something that we'll need to identify. That we're certainly thinking about. There is potentially a gap, even on the Eastern alignment, like you mentioned. So we would need additional funding.
Yep, and I would say
okay,
too.
So,
I'm sorry. I was just going to add to that. We are in the process over this upcoming year. We'll be looking at potential projects to be funded through the next round of the MSTIP, the Major Streets Transportation Improvement Program. So the additional funding that may be needed for either alignment on this could be a potential candidate project for that next round of funding. And that's funding for projects between the years 2023 and 2028.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had for now. Thanks, Brandy.
Great, thanks, Suresh. All right, I see Asif next. Hello, Asif.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hey, it's been a while. I just wanted to address in the tone of Mary Manso about the dissimilar amount of design margin that we're putting. I think the bike lane and the guards that we have and the lane parts that we're doing for the western alignment in this budget is not the same as the eastern. And that blows up the cost, and we all know about that. So this is, we keep referring to that, but I see the county is almost deliberately saying, this is our standard, this is that. But if it's the standard, then why is the eastern not being blown up to that same size and actually do the comparison fairly? So that's one part of the question. And the second part of the question is, I particularly paid attention as Ben was presenting, saying that the same amount of margin has been kept for both of the alignment, meaning the 40% and the 15% administrative contingency. But let's be real over here. We're doing as a percentage. So the amount of the contingency is actually disproportionately hurting the western alignment consideration. Okay, if for any project who is driving any project, you will really know it's the final amount that matters. It's not the percentage, and not all the items in a line item of a project scale proportionately. So I think that kind of a margin allowance is completely unfair. So if you think about it, in the eastern alignment, the 40% contingency would be somewhere around like 3.7. Now, if you put that amount, not the percentage, to western, suddenly the elephant in the room will be not the elephant in the room. So let's start being real over here. We have been toiling over this project for a very long time, okay? And we see this thing, despite our, detailed requests and all the discussions, we keep going back to the eastern alignment and keep undercutting some of the, people's need. So really would like to hear from the, responsible staff members, and I appreciate that, Chair Katherine Harrington had a time to hear us out. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Asif. So I know that you mentioned as far as comparing the two alignments, and correct me if I get this wrong, were you asking if we're treating the eastern alignment, the option 3 that is, with let's say the multi-use path, for example, should we also be looking at the western alignment with the same treatment? I just want to make sure I understood if that was what you meant, that we're not doing that and we should do that.
Yes, in other words, actually the western alignment keeps the eastern alignment alive. And if that is so, the bike lane does not have to be there. And that changes the whole cost structure. But despite mentioning that many times, we keep doing that. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I see. You're saying the western lane doesn't necessarily need the bike lanes.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And it makes the project much more simpler. The overhangs. I mean, it just makes this is a game changer in terms of design and cost. And despite that, we said that many times. We keep referring to the same thing. It's pointless.
So, and then the assumption would be then, Asif, correct me if I'm wrong, that the eastern alignment would stay open for bike and pedestrian travel.
Precisely.
Okay. I just want to make sure that.
And just to follow up on that, the comment on that the coverage of during the road closure, it may be option for someone to go around, but the homeowners in that eastern alignment, it is not an option to go around. This is where you end up. So if it is closed, you can't get in. Okay. So if it's not an option, Yeah.
Yeah, we have to provide access to
Yeah.
your home and your neighbor's home as well.
Correct. So anyway, let's keep this constructive and try to address those issues. So
Okay.
I think the amount and the margin of the design, if they're truly equivalent, the numbers would be dramatically different.
I see Terry's hand up. Terry, did you want to chime in?
Yes, I would. Hi, Asif. Like you said, it's been a while. Good to hear from you. So I'd just like to explain a little bit about the contingency and why that's a percentage is rather than not a flat fee. We're not really comparing kind of issue of fairness on how we apply that. What we're trying to do is manage the risk that the project, the two alternatives present. And the Western alignment does have a lot more risk since it's a new alignment. We don't have geotechnical information, so there's a risk on how we design the bridge, how we design walls and fill. Also, the Western alignment crosses a floodplain, a mapped floodplain, whereas the existing alignment does not. So that's increased risk for how we deal with that. We know that the environmental permitting is going to be a bigger hurdle for the west and the east because we're creating a new alignment. So you're introducing risk for how much effort we have to do to overcome that, perhaps environmental assessment rather than the easiest way, a exemption. So that's why it's correct to proportionally apply the contingency by a percentage. The contingency also includes inflation. So as you're looking 2 or 3 years out with inflation, you're probably looking at 11% to 16%.
I think we all know what is the real inflation.
Different construction costs, which are based on your base construction costs. So that's why that part of the contingency is a percentage. So I hope that explains why the contingency is typically applied as a percentage. It's a way of assessing the different risks between those. If anything, the percentage of the Western alignment might be a little higher just because of the environmental and geotechnical unknowns.
What is really unknown in that case? And yeah, I wonder that. And we have been doing case studies like the 626 study corridor. We have a wealth of information about what's there, what pipeline is there, and whatnot, right? And the floodland discussion. Has anybody looked at the map and see how this floodplain suddenly comes up to that point and stops? Water doesn't stop like that in a natural way, okay? And the point is, have we had some real data about what is really a floodplain? This floodplain was, I think, was actually done about 85 years back. Since the total irrigation plan and all the water evacuation plan has been dramatically changed, and nobody has updated that, and still we're using that as an excuse to say this is a floodplain. Who has seen a flood over here? And who can say that there will be a flood with this kind of city water irrigation plan already done? So all these things, I think, are kind of red herring, to be honest.
Okay, so yeah, Asif, I'll try to answer those. So on the floodplain, that's mapped by FEMA, which is a federal agency that maps those. And personally, I don't have an explanation why the floodplain ends there. The map note says that they consider flood risk above that line to be negligible. And so it's another risk for the project that if we got to it to do, they impact a lot of the residences. They may impact their flood insurance rates. So it's not something you take lightly to do a map revision. And then secondly, geotechnically, I know we have soils maps that you can look at. Those aren't generally used for bridge design. We need to do geotechnical investigations with drilling, find out where the bedrock is in order to found the bridge correctly. So that's why that's still an unknown, even though the county may have soils maps, but those aren't related to structural strength.
Great. All right. Asif, do you have any more questions or should we go to Virginia?
Let's go to Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Asif.
Thank you for
Okay, Virginia, you should be able to unmute.
Thank you. I'd like to see one of the conceptual drawings of the eastern
Oh, great.
alignment that you showed.
Sorry about that, Virginia. Yeah, Ben, can you pull up your presentation again, please?
Yes. Let's see here.
And in the meantime, while you're bringing that up, I have two questions. The other one is for the two county commissioners, is cost the main reason why you guys are pushing the eastern alignment? And on this, actually, there was another one. Yes. Yeah, no, back to that one. Yes. The original problem that people were noticing was when there was a large construction vehicle or a school bus going up or down the eastern alignment, and there were numerous accidents where vehicles went off the road. I'm asking you, what happens if a construction vehicle and a school bus are trying to pass each other on the road when it looks like this? That's what I want you to consider. What's going to happen to those cyclists or those pedestrians when one or another of the vehicles leaves the roadway? That's something I want everyone to consider. But back to my other question, this is for Katherine and Pam. Why are you guys so adamant about pushing the eastern alignment? Why can't we look at the future of Washington County and Multnomah County and all of our grandchildren, how they're going to want to travel around the community, and consider the western alignment?
Great. Let me make sure that the commissioners can be unmuted. Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
Chair, are you comfortable if I go first here? Okay. Thank you. First of all, Virginia, I would take exception at pushing one or the other. I'm still in a listening mode, so I'm certainly listening. We've been talking about this for a long time. I continue to learn, especially with the changes now that have been proposed tonight. I'm learning more. I'm learning more from the comments. At the same time, it's a complex decision. It's not a simple decision. And one of the many factors is cost. So to answer your question, I don't think I'm pushing one over the other, and I'm listening, but like I said, it's a complex set of circumstances. And I think that our job is to consider all of those. Chair.
No problem. Thank you, Commissioner Treese. So, over these 3 years being a member of the county commission, I find myself with the standpoint of cost is the cost, right? So it's somewhat marginalized in my viewpoint, in my decision making. What I believe I asked staff to investigate further from our work session was really in two different characterizations. Given the environmental sensitivity that we have to work with, and as a board member for Clean Water Services, as a Clean Water Services board member, we each year have been learning more and more about the new regulations that EPA is putting on us for surface water management. And so I was interested in getting further information from our staff about these two designs. Frankly, I'm design agnostic, and I've shared this viewpoint with Commissioner Treese. So I mentioned that environmental sensitivity. The second thing that I believe I've talked to staff about, that I've asked for further insight in, and that is, you've already talked tonight about just a facility being closed and what impact that has on daily living. I'm really wondering about what happens with each of these alignments in a Cascadia earthquake. And so I haven't heard about that yet tonight. So lastly, I'll just say, well, two other comments. I don't know what THPRD's plans are for the property that we're impacting. And that is a local jurisdiction that I want to make sure we, the board members, have heard from as just one partner. But in addition, I have the question I thought I would ask later after everybody else has asked their questions of, if the western alignment is built, what happens to the eastern alignment? And so I'll just hold that question for later because I don't think it's germane to the question that Virginia was asking each of Commissioner Treese and myself.
Great, thank you both. So I do want to pay attention to the time and our commitment to the public members in attendance tonight and make sure that they have an opportunity to speak. I just wanted to check in with the other PAC members to see if you have additional comments that you'd like to raise before we go to public comments. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised or any frantic unmutings. Okay, Mary, I see. You should be able to unmute.
There,
Okay.
finally. So maybe Bruce Barbarash would like to speak some about what the Park District's plans are, but as I understand it, the parcel that they bought from Ken Finley, historically the water during high water periods would actually overflow into the meadow. And it's my understanding that THPRD has plans to actually make modifications to allow that natural flowing to happen anyway. And with the plans for the western alignment, the road's going to be raised up on piers, and so it would allow that to happen. There's also potential there, whereas the road work is being done, to partner with THPRD to have their plans implemented earlier instead of later. I don't think that option has been investigated as much as it should at this point. And then also, it is our understanding as PAC members that if the western alignment is selected, the eastern alignment would be maintained, and potentially it could be the bike facility. And it would allow, most people to then travel on a road that doesn't have cars zipping up and down. And particularly on a grade like that, I would think it would be a much more pleasant adventure for bicyclists. So those were my two comments.
Thanks, Mary. Bruce, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I will just say the Park District purchased the property along the western alignment, approximately 25 acres, with natural area bond funds. So it is designated as a habitat area. We are still in a planning process trying to determine what we are going to do from the restoration perspective, and no final decision has been made at this point. We do know there will be some form of public access to the site in the future, and that also has not been planned out, but it would be natural oriented. So you wouldn't see a ball field there, but you might see, for example, a trail or some benches or something more akin to quiet uses.
Great, thanks for clarifying that, Bruce. Okay, so I would like to transition us, if we're okay with that, to the public comments since it's 6 o'clock. Good timing, everyone. And so I saw the order that I saw people was Ram, and then Tim, and then Amy, Alan, and Mary, and then someone who is labeled Pixel 4A. And so I'm going to unmute Ram and then Tim. Ram, can you unmute?
Hi, yes.
Hello.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, Brandy, and good evening, Ben, and all the commissioners. Thank you so much for your time and for the meeting. And I want to add the same question where Suresh Bala asked about the levy. If you see into it like either as eastern alignment or the western alignment, still we needed a funding from anywhere from 2.5 to 13 million. We need it, depend on the alignment and depend on the whatever we selected. But we heard that there is a possibility levy on the properties at the neighborhood. And as you mentioned, we are from the Bower Highlands, and around 275 homes. I am the chair for the Bower Highlands HOA, and I talked to other couple of neighborhoods and their HOAs, but never been received any kind of communication regarding levy or additional funding or for the additional taxes or anything, but never we didn't committed even. And how it is going to fulfill that funding, just to, if you can elaborate a little bit more. So we want to hear from you guys. And one thing is for sure, any HOA or from my HOA or any other HOAs, never we are not committed to anything. Could you please let us know what's going to be? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ram. So in regards to funding, I think that gets back to what Stephen was mentioning earlier. That is something that we identified. There's a funding gap, but for either alignment, we would need to come up with that delta. As far as reaching out to the neighborhoods and proposing a levy to help fund the projects, I don't think I can speak to that, but maybe Stephen, that is not something I'm familiar with. It's not something that I know that's been contemplated.
I'll just speak to it very quickly. That's not a funding mechanism that we've used here in the past, other than in the cases of some large scale developments, forming local improvement districts before development occurs, and then essentially committing property owners to contribute to funding for infrastructure.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go to Tim.
Okay. I wonder if you can bring up that that project map slide. It would be easier if I can speak to that.
This one, Tim?
Yes,
Okay.
right. So I'm a resident of Bannister Creek, and if you look at the yellow eastern alignment, so right now it's like the Saltzman feeds directly into Bannister Drive, so it's very easy for us to get into our neighborhood. Basically, we just have to cross Laidlaw, and then we are right in the neighborhood. And there are quite a lot of homes here in the Bannister Creek neighborhood. And if we were to go to the western alignments, that means that now we actually have to make 2 extra turns. That we have to do a turn east onto Laidlaw and then do a turn north back into Bannister Drive. So it will actually delay, I think, the traffic on both Laidlaw and increase the times to get into our neighborhood. And that's quite a bit of cars going to our neighborhood. We are major users of Saltzman because that's the major access road for our neighborhood. So I'm strongly against the western alignment and very much for the eastern alignment. Yeah, so that's my opinions. Like for our neighborhood, it's going to increase the times to get into the neighborhood, and also it's going to cause delay on Laidlaw, create a traffic jam there, like if we were to go to the western alignment.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Tim, for your comments.
All right, I'm going to go to Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Wong, and we live right off of Saltzman, next to Blueberry Hollow and the THPRD lands. As far as I know, there are letters that were sent to staff and the commissioners from CPO 1 and CPO 7. Have staff and commissioners read the proposed, the recommended letters? Question 1.
Yeah, so Amy, I believe there was a updated letter that was sent within the last week to the original CPO 7 letter. So there's been letters received from both CPOs. I think those were sent directly to staff and to the commissioners. So we are reviewing those, and I believe they both prefer the western alignment. And also there was some discussion as far as the funding mechanism. So I guess I'm just answering your question to say, yes, we have seen those. If there's anything else you want us to comment on about those, or some additional, you want us to maybe spend more time on those, we have received them, and they are being considered.
And also, given the previous neighbors' concern about traffic, have you guys done additional traffic study? Because there's new development done on Laidlaw, coming up on Laidlaw towards the east of Saltzman, between Laidlaw and Saltzman. My concern is, given, if you go back to your slide about the projections, what it would look like.
Oh, the visual simulation?
The visual simulation.
For the east or the west?
For the east.
Okay, any one of these?
Any one of them. I'm concerned on my side of the street, there is no buffered bike lane. So meaning, if majority of the Bannister Creek residents uses Saltzman to come in and out, and then there's also sharing the bike lanes with the bicyclists and pedestrians, that is not addressing the safety concerns we have on our neighbors. Currently, I'm already seeing kids riding their bikes up our streets. I go get my mail out and almost getting run over by people who speed on Saltzman. What are the county's engineers' plan to address those safety concerns? Because those are major ones, as well as we are in the winter now, and soon we'll start seeing people running off the road because Saltzman does get slippery. Yeah, how do you address that?
Thanks for your comments, Amy. And just for clarification, you're talking about the multi-use path on the west side that's proposed that is not its own dedicated buffered bike lane that you had concerns about. I think Terry might be able to speak a little bit more about the traffic study that we did and also the design as far as meeting safety standards.
Thanks, Ben. Start with the traffic study we did for future volumes, took into account the metro model for increased population. So since that development was developed to the metro standards, that would be accounted for in our future projections. As far as the multi-use path, the original intent there was to allow the uphill cyclists different experience as they went uphill. We could look at yes.
Oh, sorry, you froze for just a second.
Oh, okay. We could look at a hybrid. We could extend the buffered bike lane and sidewalk up until we come to the hill, if that's still the preferred alternative. I will say that we'll go through the standard Washington County review with the Board of Commissioners on the final selection of the bike and ped facilities. So that's something we can look at in the future.
Great.
And then as far as your question about safety, meeting our design standards, I think, I don't know if there's anything additional info you want to add on that, Terry, but both alignments would need to meet county standards.
Right. In this intersection area on the north end of the eastern alignment, we are meeting the county standards for arterial or collector.
Thank you.
Great. So next I have Alan and Mary, and then Pixel for A, and then Judy Weiser. And then I have 2 emails that I'll read. So Alan and Mary.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, have just a couple of concerns. One is we have lived here, we're next door on Laidlaw to where the western alignment would be. And we've traveled Saltzman Road many times over the last 48 years, at least twice a day. And I have yet to have driven Saltzman at any time where I saw any accident on the road. That's not to say there's not happening. I would be interested in knowing any statistics you may have about the accidents on Saltzman to just update my understanding of it. I know right now it's a narrow road and it's dangerous and you need to take it slow. Most of the traffic I have seen does take it slow. I've never encountered a dangerous situation in the time I have traveled Saltzman. But what I have observed over the last many years is once the cars turn off of Saltzman onto Laidlaw heading west, it's a long straight stretch. And I know there's a speed limit there of 40 miles an hour. And I see cars that are doing 50, 60, and who knows if any more than that going up that road. Not that most of the drivers do, but some of them. And if you put in a bridge coming down with a 10% grade on it, and it's fairly straight from the top of the hill there down to 133rd, even though you may have a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, I think you're going to see a whole lot more accidents probably there than what you've seen over Saltzman Road, even though the road is wider and safer. So my personal opinion, I believe a wider Saltzman Road east side is probably much safer than what you may realize if you got that long straight stretch over that bridge. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is in the times we've lived here, we feel like that the western alignment will make a definite challenge to some of the wildlife there. We've observed, and I can show you pictures of many times we've seen eagles in the trees along the creek there that definitely would be affected by the western alignment. And in fact, I think probably some of the trees they use would be totally taken out. So that is one environmental impact, I think, that needs to be considered if that's important. And so that's really my comments. Mary, do you have anything you want to add?
I just agree with what you said, Alan. And having lived here in this community, the amount of years that we have, it's a wonderful place to live. And I can see where improving the eastern alignment, it would be wonderful. And it would be good for the whole environmental situation along with the community. And we have a lovely community here. And just improving that and making it accessible for people that would like to walk. And I know eventually parks are in the planning ahead. So I think about that and the fact that it's not as costly, it's more community minded rather than just zipping across someplace to get somewhere quickly. I see that it's more about people and community, and also it's wise in how we use our tax money. So I really feel drawn to that because of what I see here from living these years here, which I never dreamed I would be here in this area. But seeing it develop the way it has and where we are now, I see it as a lovely community and we want to keep it that way. So my thoughts are that let's do it for the people and the community in wisdom and how we use the taxes, and look at it that way in regards to people. So those are just a few of my thoughts, along with the financial edge of it as well. And thank you for letting me share.
One other just quick comment. I did walk the neighborhood on the north side of Laidlaw and handed out flyers to let people know this meeting was taking place. And that's really all I did, was pass out the flyers with little or no comment. And just explain to them that this was about the eastern and western alignment. And I would say I saw at least 16 families yesterday. And I know at least 14 of them made comments. They hope they enlarge Saltzman as is rather than put in the new alternative.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thanks, Alan and Mary. And just a quick comment for a question that Alan had. We do have crash data and we can provide that. We can post that if it's not already on the website for download.
Yeah, I was just curious about that. Yeah. We're home most of the time and we hear the sirens, but we've seen very little.
Great.
Yeah, thanks for your comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we have Pixel 4A, and then we are going to go to Judy Weiser. And we are running a little bit behind, but I do want to make sure that we get to the rest of these public comments. So if we can try to tighten it up a little bit. So we'll go to Pixel 4A, Jody, sorry, and then William and Andrew. So Pixel 4A, you should be able to unmute.
Hi, I am Pixel 4A, although I also have a name.
Great.
And that is, my name is Parvati Kumar Manna. I used to be the BNC's treasurer. So Bain, we did have a lot of communication earlier. The only thing which, and I would make it quick, is that right now, the way Saltzman it's like a guy who drives a car, a manual car, and his brake has kind of gone bad. So instead he just downshifts and finally uses the parking brake. And even the parking is going bad, the solution probably should not be to fix the real parking brake and teach him how to do it more efficiently rather than just fix his brake. The way you should think about when we are doing county level, think long term. We need to straighten the Saltzman so that it connects to the 138th, so that finally Multnomah County, they can also like say, okay, we'll go through that one, make it a straight road to the like the Springville. I mean, there it has become a chicken and egg problem. Multnomah would not extend the road if we don't make the Saltzman straight. And here we are saying, hey, what is the point of doing it unless they extend it? I think we should always have the long-term viewpoint and make it straight. And we can maybe even leave the easterly alignment alone so that those people who are there, they are not inconvenienced. Because once we have the bridge, I'm pretty sure that most of the people, they would take the bridge. Most of the traffic, they would use the bridge anyway. So those who want to use the banister or something, if they want to use that, that's fine. But always think long-term prospect, what should be done. And that way I feel that westerly really should be the solution.
Great, thank you. All right, Jody, I don't see your, Jody, are you, oh, there you are, okay.
So Fixel, I didn't get your real first name, but my comments are similar. I'm thinking of the probably 1,000 new homes that are still in land that is outside the urban growth boundary, but on both sides of Springville and going all the way up to Germantown, there's many acres that will get developed and they need a way to get south. 130th is the obvious for them to do that. There aren't houses built with driveways like there are in Bannister Creek. And if we don't plan for that now, we're going to create a problem like we have in Canyon Road, where somebody made a decision long ago that we could do this and it'll work. And it's worked, and there haven't been a whole lot of deaths there, but it's been a ridiculous intersection for a long time. And if I think of those thousands of people that will be coming down 130th someday, with the western alignment, they would probably come to a four-way stop at Law, and then they would proceed. With the eastern alignment, they would come down, they would have to have a left-hand turn, they would go a few blocks, then a right-hand turn, and then they would go through the curves, and at the top of the hill, they would have another turn. And that does not seem like a safe proposal for those thousands of homes. And they will get built, and it seems that we should have the foresight to know that not particularly productive farmland is going to turn into houses. And we need to plan a transportation plan that allows for it. We've seen how quick the buildings have been happening farther up on Laidlaw to the east, where Area 93 came into Washington County. And so I really, I've been 4 years less time than Alan and Mary. And of course, the whole area has changed dramatically, but that's what continue to happen. And I think we really should plan for that. I will also say that the lake, where we're talking about the wetlands, has actually moved dramatically. It has been moved to the west. And so where the floodplain, any flooding would happen, has probably also moved. It used to be when you drove on Laidlaw, you could look down and see the lake. And there's no standing water there anymore. It's all in a more deeply dug area that is almost adjacent to Lakeview Road. And so I think that what is happening to the wetlands, we really need to consider. Ward Creek is the source of most of that water. And so it is all a wetland in that area. It's all a natural area. Some of it's forested and some of it's been farmed. But if either alignment, we are affecting animals and aquatic creatures.
Great. Thank you so much, Jody. So I see William and then Andrew, and then I'll read the 2 comments that were emailed in, and then we can get back to any PAC members who have comments as well. So William.
Good evening. Yes, my name is William Pokorny. I've been listening to this meeting, and for the most part, I have a lot in common with Mr. Rahman about his questions and concerns about the costs and contingency fees, etc. I'm a retired civil engineer. I've worked on highway projects and bridges and a lot of other kind of sewer and water systems. My big question with the west alignment is, why are they suggesting to use a 400-foot long bridge? If the big issue is concerning the so-called wetlands and the creek and everything like that, that can be reduced and somewhat consolidated. And also I saw on the bridge design, for the most part, that there is a system that Nucor Steel uses for constructing bridge abutments, which simplify the technical and the overall design of bridge abutments as compared to what I've seen on the drawings. I'm just wondering why it needs to be a 400-foot long bridge, which is the most expensive part on the western alignment. I think a large culvert, which several companies are capable of making, they can make 2 85-foot wide culverts, and it would address a lot of the things that are being covered by the 400-foot long bridge, which costs a whole lot more than any kind of culverts. Personally, I'm not really concerned about whether the eastern or western alignment is chosen, except for on the eastern alignment, you're going to have to realize that that segment of the road is going to be out of service for the better part of it, maybe 2 years. And the other thing is that I think that we also should get together real seriously with the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District to find out what their plans are. I know they keep saying that they don't have any plans, but I think there should be some sort of consolidation between trails that the park district would construct sooner or later and what the county is going to build sooner or later. And it would be a good idea to get the trails away from the roadway. In other words, separate it completely so you have a path where bicycles and pedestrians will be separated from the traffic. And that way there, with the separation, things would be a whole lot safer for anybody involved. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, William.
Thank you, William.
I'm going to move to Andrew Lampkin and then read the 2 comments. Andrew?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for the chance to speak here. Commissioners and the county staff, really appreciate your efforts here. I know flyers were mentioned earlier. I remember handing out and stuffing mailboxes as well to get people to our different community participation organizations. So I certainly appreciate that the staff and commissioners have received those inputs, and thanks for confirming that as well. The other thing too, I wanted to just, as observing the road quite a bit, I know we're designing for environmental impact as well, right? But I don't think we can necessarily focus all of the wildlife in one direction or not, right? Like we see wildlife crossing the road at almost every part, right? I've seen coyotes hop fences and saunter across. I've seen bobcats stroll across the road. And, families of deer just wander, anywhere they happen to please, right? So I don't think, I mean, there's certainly, we need to be conscious of that for any alignment, of course, but, I don't think there should be an illusion that the Eastern would be any better than any other alternatives. So thank you. Appreciate the chance to comment.
Great,
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Oh, I see Catherine, Chair Harrington.
Yes, thank you. Andrew, thank you for those comments. I realized that in trying to be clear but brief, I neglected to share a little insight as to why I was asking our staff to make sure that we had done enough advance investigation into the environmental side. I mentioned the Clean Water Services expertise, and it was really, I wanted to make sure we did enough due diligence in order to ensure that down the line, if these other agencies that have to approve of the design, Department of State Lands, DEQ, all of that, I wanted to make sure that we had gone into this with enough information so that we would not end up with a situation later down the road where we chose to go with the Western alignment, but those permitting agencies would say, no, you can't. And we'd all just end up back with an Eastern alignment situation. So really, that's been the heart of the matter for me. And I'm satisfied that our staff heard my concern and that they're taking the project through the appropriate steps leading up to a final board decision, which will be coming to us in 2022. That's all. That's really where my head was at. I did not want to set the community up for disappointment. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
So I will read the two emails that were sent to Ben before the meeting. The first one is from Brian Torres. I'm a resident of North Bethany area who uses Laidlaw for my commute to Tumwater Middle School where I work. I'd like to share my support for the Western alignment option. Even though it's significantly more expensive, I feel it makes much more sense to avoid having any dangerous curves on that very tricky part of Laidlaw Road. Because the majority of traffic is turning left towards Stoller Middle School, it makes more sense to junction the intersection to the west. Has a traffic circle been considered for this T junction? It seems to me that it would be a perfect place to install one. Thanks so much for the work you've done for our county. I appreciate it. And despite all the different opinions, in the end, it will pay off with a great design. And then the second email is from Anurag Jain, and they say, I'm a resident of Arbor Heights and would like to voice my strong support for the Eastern option for traffic mitigation on Saltzman Road. Okay, so those are our comments. I'm going to direct it back to the PAC, and I'm wondering, I just want to check in, Ben, with you to see if there are any kind of, I know we talked about next steps, but I also want to be respectful of Commissioner Treese and Chair Harrington's time and make sure that they can stay for a little bit. But so are we okay going back into the discussion, Ben, or do you have something else to share?
Yeah, no, I think we can go back into the discussion. We can take more comments. I believe we have this time until 7. And yeah, I appreciate the chair and commissioner's time. If looks like you gave us a thumbs up, Chair, that you can stay on. So yeah, we can just continue with the discussion then.
Okay, great. So I see that Mary has her hand raised, and I do want to check in with a few of the PAC members who haven't had a chance to speak, and just wanted to check in to see if you wanted to chime in. So I know that Bruce is here. I see Trace is here. Just looking at the names just to see if there was anyone else that wanted to chime in. Venkat. Okay. Okay, Bruce, I'll let you go.
So thanks everyone for participating in yet another meeting about this. Just to restate, Park District's position is that we understand there are multiple values here. We serve the same community that the county does here. And we intend to be as helpful as we can, also recognizing that our primary mission is to preserve natural areas for public enjoyment and for natural resource values, and to provide pleasant and accessible natural areas and trails. And just from the Park District's perspective, recognizing that we manage land for the public along both of these alignments, our analysis based on the information we have right now says that the eastern alignment is the one that seems to impact public property the least and provides the greatest kind of watershed or the least amount of watershed impact, just because of the reduced amount of impervious area and the kind of potential impact of floodplain areas. But I guess you've probably already received a letter from us that states that. I don't think this is anything new for the PAC, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate that point. And if it ends up being the Western alignment, we will certainly do what we can to be good partners. And if it ends up being the Eastern alignment, we'll work with you in the same way. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Bruce.
Great. Thanks, Bruce. Then Kat, let me unmute you, and then we'll go to Mary and Asif.
Yeah, hi. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Again, I want to thank the county staff and the commissioners for hosting this meeting. I think each time I join, I kind of learn a little bit more, and I see we are making a lot, collecting more data, more comments, and, getting closer to a solution. But it has been already, almost like 5 years since we started this process, trying to make this, what do you call an improved Saltzman Road a reality. And I think we're still having a lot of discussions, and I don't see a whole lot happening till for another 4 or 5 years. By the time, I don't know if, half the people who are here would be still living in these neighborhoods or not. So I think there is an urgency to this matter. That's what one thing I wanted to add. I am a resident of Arbor Heights, and I think along with Bower Highlands HOA, my preference, I should say, was still for the Western alignment as the first preference, because of the benefits that it provides over for the long term, especially considering the amount of development that's going on around Laidlaw. I know. I think as far as environmental impact goes, I think all these new developments have even more higher environmental impact than just adding one road, which is supposed to benefit all the communities in this neighborhood, right? Means we don't have a straight road that connects us to Springville, or we have to go all the way till Kaiser and then go to Springville and then come back, to just go to a neighborhood that's behind us, right behind Arbor Heights. If 130th was, if we had a straight road from Laidlaw to Springville, it would definitely make life easier for a lot of neighborhood, homeowners who live on the Springville side of, Washington County, right? So I think, yeah, all I wanted to say is, even after hearing all the latest option and all the comments, I still believe the best option is the westerly alignment. And then, if that cannot be done because of constraints which appear reasonable, I think Eastern would be the second best alternative, I would say. So that's all.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think I saw Mary first and then Asif.
Yes, listening to the public comments, it triggered one of the questions that I actually have listed on my agenda. And it's specifically about the Bannister Drive with the eastern alignment. We did hear from a gentleman who said that he prefers the eastern alignment because it gives him good access to the Bannister Creek neighborhood. I've heard from many people from that neighborhood who were like, it's just crazy because people blast down Saltzman Road, don't know where they're going, you know, go through the stop sign, and then Saltzman just dumps into their neighborhood, and they have driveways that back into Bannister Drive. So the question is if we go with the eastern alignment, at what point will what options will be looked at to prevent traffic at the intersection of Laidlaw and Saltzman, to try and direct them away from that neighborhood and to limit the amount of traffic that bleeds into the neighborhood?
Thanks, Mary, for your question and comment. We're at a very sort of low level of design. So with all of this, we haven't. We'll flesh a lot of this out more as we proceed with whichever alignment is chosen. But in this case, your question is eastern alignment and Bannister. We have considered traffic calming measures at that intersection for Bannister. And that could take a number of forms, but I do hear your concern, and we are considering maybe some measures that we could take at the entrance of Bannister Drive that would maybe mitigate some of those concerns.
I think at this point, even signage in the meanwhile could be beneficial to that neighborhood. Is that something that could be considered in the interim?
Yeah, that's definitely something we could consider. And yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. We've also looked at, median potentially there. There's a variety of treatments that we might be able to use. Again, it's nothing's been decided. We really need to look at that more. It hasn't been our focus, but you've mentioned it, and it has been brought up before. So it's definitely something that we're looking at. I want to make it clear that we do understand that that's a concern in that particular intersection.
Great, thank you. I just didn't want it to fall off the list.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Mary. All right, Asif.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks again for the chance of talking. Like Zekit, I would like to say that as I'm listening more to different viewpoints, there's obviously a lot more learning. But there's a couple of things where we want to probably look at it a little bit deeper. Why are people coming to this part of the town? Why are people building new houses and trying to build houses ever smaller in area, but larger in size, and trying to get desperately a piece of the land? Why is that happening? The root cause is very simple. The answer is very simple. Good schools. Good schools draw people to this land. And that's why this place is being developed. And each of these developments are adding impervious soil, as Bruce mentioned, not just the road. In fact, it's many, many times more than the road consideration. So unless our county is saying we're not going to allow any kind of development, this environmental consideration is quite lame, to be honest. The second part is, if you're truly allowing people to be together around good schools and enjoy that thriving community, then we should really think about long-term, that Judy and other people mentioned, that what will happen if the roads are straight? It will bring more people together. There will be more houses. There will be more schools, and this community will thrive. What's the benefit of that thriving? Is that $8 million? Is that $10 million? Is that $50 million or more? So let's not be penny-wise, pound foolish. Let's think. This is a part of the town that's growing and going for a reason. And let's think about that. And environment is a macro thing. It is not a micro thing about cutting 2 trees or 1 tree. Oregon if anything, has a lot of trees. Oregon, if anything, have a lot of good environment. So let's not be, again, counting a small number of trees and say, oh, we are destroying the environment. We are not. So this counteracting argument about destroying the environment, environment friendly or clean water services, all these arguments, when we are giving new permits to areas that are being developed just because of the school, it's sort of hypocritical. So let's come to some senses that what are we doing and why are we doing? I think that will give us some clarity to the actions we need to take. Thank you.
Thanks, Asif.
Thanks, Asif. Just a reminder that this meeting, this part is for the PAC members, and I will I'll put Ben's contact information again in the chat so that if you have additional comments or questions, you can email Ben or give him a call. So just wanted to remind you all about that.
Mary.
Oh yeah, Mary, I'm guessing you've raised your hand again, so I'm gonna unmute. Okay. Okay. All right, PAC members, are there any other comments or questions? And then maybe I'll hand it to Chair Harrington and Commissioner Treese if you have anything that you'd like to say. Okay, great. And Virginia, I just saw your comment. Is that what you're raising your hand about? Okay, so Virginia was asking, what are the next steps? So Ben, maybe if you can go to that slide again, and then we can check in with the commissioners.
Yeah, it's a good question. I know that as I think maybe Asif or it might have been Venkat that mentioned it. Sorry if I got this wrong, but this project's been going on for a long time, for a number of years, and we're all here at the county very sensitive to that. So we're getting closer, but we're looking at a open house in early 2022 to bring more of the public into viewing what we're doing here and get their feedback, and then going back to the board, a board work session also in early 2022, and then soon after that going back for a regular meeting to get a decision, and then just and then move forward, whether that's the Western Alignment or the Eastern Alignment, moving forward with design, which design and permitting, which will take some time. And in regards, this kind of rolls nicely into sort of understanding the folks that we're reaching out to, the direction of the chair. We did reach out to a number of the agencies, Department of State Lands, Clean Water Services, the Army Corps of Engineers, and we had meetings with those agencies. So that ties into the environmental studies portion of that. We'll need to work with those folks, mainly with the Western Alignment, but for either the other alignments, we'll have to do a little bit of permitting work, but that's going to take a little bit more time for the Western Alignment, frankly. Just the reality that there's a little bit of a hurdle there after speaking with those agencies that we're going to need to delve into a little bit more. And then the right-of-way acquisition piece is it's a significant significant process, and it does take time. It'll be 9 months before we can start construction, as I've laid out here.
Great. So I see Suresh raised his hand, and then we can go to the commissioners. Suresh?
Yeah. My question is, this is a timeline, Ben, that's helpful, but I think the key question is, what is the decision-making process? What is the decision criteria?
Yep.
Cost, we heard Commissioner Treese say cost is a consideration, but not the only consideration. And Chair has brought up some concerns. Key question is, what will you use that slide that you had as the criteria? What is the decision-making process? And when will that happen? Is that part of the board work session?
Yeah, so mechanically what will need to happen is we'll need to go back to the board work session where we'll present the project and allow the chair and the board members, all the board members to look at the work that we've done and all of your comments and the recommendation of the PAC. And then if there's any additional work that we need to do, we'll go back and do that. But after that, then we'll go to a regular meeting. At the regular meeting, the board will make a decision on this project, potentially. Well, that's where the decision would be made. And the public at that meeting, not at the work session, but at the regular meeting, will be allowed to speak. I think it's 2 minutes per person, but at any rate. So sort of mechanically, I hope that helps answer that question. As far as what they'll consider, I'm not going to speak for the chair and for the commissioner, but they'll consider all the project components and ask us, to elaborate on what we've done with the work that we've done and the questions that the public has raised.
Great.
One.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Real
Suresh.
quick, Brandy, is my request is as you get closer to that, Ben, that you re-engage the PAC before the board work session, so we get a feel for where, which way we're heading, and so we can provide some, we get a early clue of where we're headed.
Okay, yeah, I'll commit to reaching out to the PAC members to let them know the schedule as we move forward, and a heads up, if you will, for the next step. I don't know that we'd have another PAC meeting. That's not in the cards. The next step would be an open house, but you all can contact me directly, of course, and I will provide you updates. So essentially, we can keep the conversation flowing. Yeah, just let me know what you need, and we'll go from there.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Suresh.
Thanks, Suresh.
So you're looking, did you, myself and the chair to comment now?
Yes, I will leave it open for you both.
Okay. Chair, would you like to go first, or how would you like to do this?
I have no preference at all. My remarks are very brief. Thank you all for convening again so that we all have the benefit of this latest information from staff. I haven't heard anything that from the PAC that changes your recommendation, and I'm totally fine with that. I appreciate that I've had the opportunity to share with you what my concerns were, as I believe I represented at that work session. I'm an upfront kind of person, so there isn't anything that's on my mind that is hidden at all. I'm really satisfied. I'm very satisfied with the work that staff has done since that work session and for what I'm hearing. Onward ho we go. And I thank you very much for your comments and consideration. Do not worry. I don't need hundreds more emails or anything like that. I believe I understand your recommendation and the whys and what fors, and I totally respect that. And I go into the next steps with the board work session very comfortable with your recommendation. And I can make absolutely no promises what the other 4 members of the 5-member board will be comfortable with. But I can say I'm very comfortable with what I've heard about the project, and that the PAC recommendation is the Western alignment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think that I wanted to point out that you have 2 of the 5 people that are involved in this decision here tonight. So I just wanted to reemphasize that. I know the chair said the same thing. The work session will be an interesting discussion. Our work sessions are lively, and we have a variety of opinions. So I'm looking forward to that as well. I appreciate greatly the work that's been done by the PAC. I appreciate the recommendations that you're putting forward. I understand the amount of work that you have gone through in coordination with the staff, and to me that is the most important piece, is that the work has it's been long, it's been hard, but it has been iterative, that there have been discussions back and forth, and I know it hasn't been easy. So again, I'd like to underscore, I appreciate your recommendations, and I am looking forward to our work session discussion. So thank you very much. I think you've done great work, and you've opened my eyes to many different pieces for this. So thank you.
Great. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thank you both. And yeah, I sincerely appreciate the chair and the commissioner joining us. And just want to reiterate, we really respect the PAC members' time and input into this process. And just from staff viewpoint, I have been very impressed by all the comments that the PAC has made, digging into the details and really pressing us for answers. So thanks for helping make the process better.
Great. Well, I know I said this last time, but I think for real, this is the last time I will see you. So thank you all. Again, we will share this information on the website, including the slides. The recording will be posted on the website as well. And the meeting summary will come out in a couple of weeks, especially with the end of the year. Things start to get busy. So I don't want to promise an exact date when we will get you the meeting summary, but we will have all the comments and concerns that were raised tonight included in that summary and noted as we've done in previous summaries. So thank you all, and gold stars all around. We're finishing a few minutes early, so thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful end to the year. Stay safe out there, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Good night.
And I just added Ben